Hello, I'm Nicola and I'm from the Creature Feature Show. So you might have remember me from previously when I was on Chaos TV. So we are back again. So a bit about me, I'm a zoologist up to master's level at university, and I'm currently doing animal assisted interventions with a number of people and a number of animals. So as you can see here, I have got a pair of hissing cockroaches that you can probably hear at the same time. So these are Madagascan hissing cockroaches. We've got the male here and we've got the female here. So the noise they're actually making is them taking a big deep breath, which people find threatening because they don't know what the noise actually is. So these are vegetarians, so they would only eat fruit and vegetables, leaves, anything that's non-meat items. So you can see the difference between a male and female. So the male has big horns and the female doesn't. And obviously the males are actually bigger than the females. So here we have giant African millipedes. So we've got a female here, we've got a male here which is bigger, and we've also got another male in the tank. So these are named millipedes. So in the way of describing millipedes is they've got millions of legs. However, they don't have millions of legs. They grow 4 legs every time they get bigger. So these will grow to about a foot long and about the size of a 50p piece round. So they are quite big, and I have seen these actually how big they get in the wild. So it's fascinating just how big they actually do get to. So again, these are vegetarian and they absolutely love lettuce and cucumber as one of their favourite foods. So we've got 2 different colours here. We've got the common black and we've got what they call the tiger. And this one's deciding he's going to show off all his legs. So as they walk, if he will walk, you will notice they walk in like a Mexican wave. They have a little tiny claw on each of their legs, which helps them to move along in the way that they do. So I saw these in South Africa when I was out there a couple of years ago now, and we would go out when it's raining and actually find them. They're just fascinating to watch. So I do various things in South Africa. I volunteer and work with some wild animals in various game reserves, and I also take children from an orphanage to animal places so that they can experience their own wildlife that they've got that they don't see while they're actually in the orphanage. So I use my animal interventions alongside actually being out in South Africa. So these, I've always had millipedes, and then a couple of years ago, obviously weather change, climate change, they all died, and so I managed to get these last year, and they were a lot smaller than what they are now. So these came from the Southwest largest bug show that's being held at Yeovil each year. They are very friendly. The only time they will argue is when they're fully grown and there's 2 males in the enclosure. So hopefully I can access another female and then we can have 2 pairs in different enclosures. Yes, especially when their females are mature. And it's really hard to sex them unless they're actually walking around like they are now. So the antennae are basically the same as a slug and snails. They are the feelers of where they're going. So as soon as you touch them, they will, majority of the time, curl themselves in a ball because they feel threatened, and they have very poor eyesight. So these will get probably about a foot long and quite a bit round. I think these are the biggest ones in the wild. I do know that they probably could get to about 2 foot, but I think because these ones have been captive bred over the years, they won't get as big as what you would actually find in the wild. At the moment they're on special soil which has got leaves mixed in, so they will eat rotting leaves, and they've got some bark that they bury themselves under, and then they've got the food, which is lettuce and cucumber, and a bowl of water which they tipped over this morning. So in the wild they would again eat leaves, fruit and veg, but they would also eat any dead insects. So that's the difference between captive bred ones, is that you don't really give them dead food or little bits of meat, because they won't eat it. So they've adapted their food differences from being in the wild to captivity. Here we have giant African land snails. So these originate from Africa, and you usually find them roughly dinner plate size. So these are only about 6 months old, and these were rescued from a family who bought them for their kids and don't know how to look after them, which they're one of the simple animals to actually have because they don't have specific requirements. These are vegetarian, so they eat lettuce, cucumbers, apples, carrots. The only thing that I found they do not like is potato. Everyone is different, so all their shells are totally different. And in here we've also got 2 different sorts. So we've got albino and we've got the common one. So on here they're on the cucumber, and on the cucumber is calcium powder. So these need to have calcium for their shell to maintain as it is, otherwise it can go soft, and also to repair any damages to the shell that they occur while they're in their enclosures. Normally you can give them cuttlefish, but because they're small they tend not to go for the cuttlefish, so I would always put calcium powder on the diet so that I know they're at least getting some calcium for the strength they need to grow. It's all over Africa, you get different ones, so the shells are different, different colours. South Africa tends to have the biggest ones that I've noticed since being out there. We did find some in Uganda, but they were about half the size to what I've seen in South Africa, and you tend to only see them when it's very wet out there, so normally they would hibernate. So it's mostly the birds that will take these, and some lizards, obviously this sort of size. It's the bigger they get, the easier it is for items to find. These will be used as therapy once they're bigger. At the moment the shell is really soft, and although in a couple of weeks they have doubled in size, I would say tripled in size. There's the size that they were when I first got them, and that's just in about, I would say, 2.5 weeks, the size difference. So one thing that you can buy now is you can actually get snail slime in Holland and Barrett to use as like a face mask. So it's got some sort of collagen or something that people are now using to actually use on their face. I wouldn't even put a snail on my face. I think it's just that although with these, if you hold them and then you touch them in your eye, you can get conjunctivitis. So I wouldn't want to put snail slime on my face just to see. I must have like a cleansing, some sort of cleansing stuff in them. It's very strange. So we're going to take a quick break, listen to a couple songs, and we'll be straight back to meet the scorpions. And welcome back. So now we are going to meet the giant flat rock scorpion. I believe this one is from Asia. I'm not 100% on the species of this one because it has only ever been labelled as a giant flat rock, and there is quite a few around in the world. So this one is a giant flat rock because he is flat. So these would live in crevices and holes in the walls and under rocks and stones, any tree bark, and these would eat any prey items. So these would eat crickets, other scorpions, mealworms, any bugs that come within the vicinity of eating it. So to help it get into the crevices, he has got very hairy pincers. So that shows how big a hole he is actually moving into and whether or not he will actually be able to fit. So with scorpions, you can get 2 different sorts. You get ones with big claws and little bulb at the end. The bulb at the end is where the venom is, or you can get very small pincers and a big bulb. So the ones with the big bulb and the small pincers are more venomous than the other ones. This scorpion, he must be about 3 years old now, so they probably live to about 8 to 10 years if kept in the correct conditions. I'm currently trying to feed him. So normally he would hold it in his pincer just like he is now, and this is a live cricket. So you can only feed him live crickets because they wouldn't be able to find the dead ones. They have to strike to get them. And what they would do is, when they actually are hungry, is he'd pinch it in the pincer and then he'd bring the tail and sting it with venom. So this venom is, there he goes. The venom in the actual scorpion, when he injects it into his food, has got enzymes that make it into the inside of a cricket into soup. So this will enable the scorpion just to be able to suck out the insides and not actually eat the outside. They leave the outside. I would take this one to interventions just for people to see something different. Loads of people have never seen a scorpion in real life, but also education, so that if people decide they want to keep them as a pet, just how to actually look after them. So with scorpions, but also with tarantulas, for him obviously the venom isn't going to be as strong as others, but it depends if you're actually allergic to the venom. So they say if you're allergic to a bee or a wasp sting, you'll probably be allergic to tarantulas and scorpion bites or stings. So now we're going to meet Spindra. So Spindra was named previously on Chaos TV when we did Name the Spider and Name the Snake competition. So here he is, or she is, in the enclosure. So I'm going to use the spoon to scoop it out. So I'm only using the spoon because if I was to go in and pick it up, it would think I'm a predator and more chances of getting bitten by it. And also we can slowly just entice it out. So Spindra is a curly hare. So the actual hairs on its back and its legs are what they call, they're not quite curly, but they're more curly than a normal spider would be. Okay, so she's out. So this spider it's about 10 years old, which is quite old for a spider, although they can live to about 12 to 15 years. So she is quite slow in doing what she does. So this would be in Africa. So you'd find different species in Africa and around you'd also find them in Asia, but obviously it'd be totally different species that you would find around. We don't actually have spiders like this in the UK, although we used to many years ago. There used to actually be tarantulas living in the UK. So on her back, I can get her to turn around. If you look on the back of it, it is a bald. So what she's been doing is she's been flicking her hairs and she's now getting ready to molt. So with the molting process, they turn themselves upside down, they open this little top bit here where the eyes are, and they pull the whole body out, just like a crab. A spider was the first exotic pet. So I already had a lizard, and then I got this little spider, and it was the size of an ant. So we were having to go in the garden and actually look for ants to feed it, because it was too small to actually find any other food for it. And that grew up and it was almost hand sized, so a bit bigger than this. And then it turned out to be a male, and he went off for breeding, and as a result I have got some of his babies with me here at the moment. So he was a red knee, whereas this one is a curly hair. So there's lots of different species of spiders and different colours you can buy. I think most people are scared of house spiders because they're so small, whereas I've taken these to lots of people who are actually scared of spiders, and the first thing they want to do, can we hold it? Can we see it up close? And there's no fear, because I think they're slower and you can actually see that the spider's there still, whereas house spiders, they just vanish straight away. They run and hide under things, you never know where it actually is. So my sister is petrified of spiders. So the one thing that would be even worse for her is for me to actually own spiders when I was younger. It never kept her out of my bedroom. She was always in there fascinated by spiders, and to this day she won't hold one, she won't pick one up, but she will literally go and have a look at them and see where they are and what they're doing and be involved in it. So this one would eat crickets. It was fed yesterday, so I could actually get it out today. It feeds once every 2 weeks. Because it's old and it's not really active, it doesn't need to have as much food as the other ones would. Although they can actually go 6 months without food. Yes, so I've got, I think it's 8 spiders in total at the moment. So this is actually a baby red knee from the previous male that I sent off for breeding. So this one is, I'm going to say about 5 years old. Still got a lot of growing to go. And they can take 10 years before they are fully grown. So this is the difference between the other one, is that this one's defense would be to flick hairs. Although they are handleable, some of these red knees are actually quite skittish, that you wouldn't really want to hold them because they will flick the hairs. So I received this one, it was about a year old, so it's about 4 years old now since I've had it. Because when they are babies, they do take a while to actually, so the female has an egg sac with loads and loads of eggs in it, and then the eggs turn to eggs with legs, which are very strange looking things. They're like a little circle with these 8 little legs, and then they grow, they then shred into what they call N1s, and then they go to N2s, and then they become a spiderling. So they're not actually a spiderling for quite a long time, and the requirements for having the very eggs with legs and the N1s and 2s is very difficult stage. So thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing all the bugs and the creepy crawlies on this week's episode, and we'll be back next week with some more creature feature show.